Isaac, upon returning to the capital, was determined not to be discouraged by the difficulties he faced. The city was overwhelming, but his goal of becoming a doctor remained his primary motivation. Each day, he devoted himself fervently to his studies and worked various jobs to support himself. His life was entirely focused on achieving his goal. Meanwhile, Sophia, though initially comforted by Alexander, began to feel the relationship becoming suffocating. Alexander, who had seemed kind at first, started to show increasingly controlling behavior. As time passed, the pressure intensified. Alexander's demands and his insistence on managing every aspect of her life began to worry Sophia. Alexander not only controlled what Sophia ate and whom she talked to, but also insisted she give him money for an investment that promised great returns. "Trust me, Sophia," Alexander said with calculated smoothness. "This investment is crucial for our future. You just need to give me an initial amount to get started." Anxious to find a way to secure a better future for herself and her son, Sophia eventually gave in, despite her reservations. The promise of a secure future seemed like a beacon of hope amid her pain and loneliness. However, as the months went by, Alexander's pressure became more oppressive. Sophia started to yearn for her freedom and questioned whether Alexander genuinely cared about her well-being or if he was merely exploiting her vulnerability for his own benefit. In the capital, Isaac became increasingly absorbed in his studies. The academic pressure was high, but he remained focused on his goal of finding a cure for his mother's illness. His relationship with Selina grew stronger. She, sharing his passion for medicine, became a close friend and confidant. Isaac appreciated Selina's support, especially when the emotional burden of his mission felt too heavy. One day, while working in the lab, Isaac received worrying news. The university had been informed of financial problems that could affect his scholarship. The blow was hard, but Isaac refused to give up. He knew that any obstacle was just another test on his path to success. He decided it was time to return to his hometown to see his mother and assess the situation personally. With the end of the semester in sight, he boarded the bus back, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. "I hope Mom is okay," he thought, looking out the bus window, trying to calm himself. Upon arriving home, Isaac found Alexander at the door. "Hello, I'm Alexander. I believe your mother must have mentioned me," he said with a smile that Isaac found forced. Surprise and distrust filled Isaac's heart. He entered the house and saw his mother, clearly exhausted and more downtrodden than he remembered. "Mom, why haven't you been answering my messages?" Isaac asked, worried. Sophia avoided her son's gaze and, with a sigh, replied, "Isaac, Alexander has been a great help to me." Though her tone tried to be positive, Isaac sensed tension in her words. Throughout the day, Isaac observed Alexander acting increasingly dominant. The man's behavior was controlling, and Isaac's concern grew. In a private conversation with his mother, Isaac said, "Mom, why do you let Alexander speak for you? It doesn't seem like he treats you well." Sophia, visibly conflicted, couldn't give a clear answer. When Alexander returned, Isaac decided to confront him. "I don't think my mother is happy. Maybe you should give her some space." Alexander, with a cold smile, replied, "I understand your concern, but your mother is fine. Perhaps you should return to university and leave her in peace." Alexander's tone, both cordial and threatening, left Isaac frustrated. "I can't leave Mom in this man's hands," he thought as he prepared to return to the capital. Back in the city, Isaac focused even more on his studies and the experimental treatment he was developing with Selina. The pressure to help his mother kept him moving, and his efforts did not go unnoticed. His dedication earned him the respect of his professors and peers, and gradually, he began to see progress in his research. Meanwhile, Sophia continued to struggle with Alexander's growing influence. Her concerns about their relationship became increasingly intense, and she began to question whether Alexander genuinely cared about her well-being or if he was just seeking his own benefit. The feeling of being trapped in a relationship that did not meet her expectations became sharper. One night, while Sophia was alone, she reflected on her situation. She looked around her house, now transformed by Alexander's demands and control, and felt a deep sadness. She realized she had lost much of her independence and that her life was being dictated by someone she didn't know well. Finally, Sophia decided she needed to make a change. Although the fear of confronting Alexander was great, she knew she had to regain control of her life. In a confrontational conversation with Alexander, she said, "I can't keep living like this. I need to regain my freedom." Seeing his influence challenged, Alexander tried to manipulate Sophia with promises and threats, but she remained firm in her decision. Over time, Sophia began to take steps to reclaim her independence and started to see the first signs of change. In the capital, Isaac continued with his research, increasingly determined to achieve his goal. His connection with Selina grew stronger, and they supported each other in their challenges. Life in the city remained tough, but Isaac knew that every sacrifice would be worth it if he could help his mother and others. The story of Isaac and Sophia continued as they struggled to achieve their dreams and overcome the obstacles in their way. Despite the difficulties, they both remained steadfast on their path, hoping their efforts would eventually lead to the fulfillment of their goals and the alleviation of their suffering. Isaac, holding Selina, thought about his mother and the promise he made to himself, to find a cure for her. He wondered if he would ever be able to fulfill it or if it was just an unattainable dream. The pressure in his heart was almost unbearable. Selina, sobbing, lamented that she hadn't been able to save her father, even though he had always been so good to her. Isaac, feeling the painful determination growing inside him, thought he couldn't let the same happen to his mother. He needed to keep fighting for her and for himself. After a while, Selina calmed down and thanked Isaac for his support. With a small smile, she told him she would try to be strong and continue with her studies, as her father would have wanted. Isaac accompanied her to her room, ensuring she was safe before returning to his own. Exhausted, both emotionally and physically, he prepared for sleep, thinking about how he would continue fighting for his mother and everyone who needed help. He knew the road would be long and challenging, but he was determined to keep going with the hope of a better future. In his room, Isaac reflected on the past few days and Selina's pain. He thought that maybe their pain could turn into something positive if they worked together. He decided to look for Selina in the library, where he found her engrossed in medical books. He proposed that they work together to develop a treatment. Selina, surprised and excited, accepted the proposal. She felt an urgent need to do something meaningful, and helping Isaac would be a way to channel her pain. Together, they immersed themselves in their studies, spending long hours in the library and the university labs. The work was harder than Isaac had imagined, but he couldn't give up. Meanwhile, Sophia faced problems at home. Alexander was becoming increasingly controlling and manipulative. Sophia began to question their relationship, wondering if she should stay with him. The situation made her feel suffocated, and she started to regret ignoring Isaac's warnings. Classes at the university resumed, and the students prepared for exams. Isaac noticed Selina's anxiety and asked if she was ready for the exam. Nervous, she admitted that she couldn't concentrate since her father's death. Worried about the exam, Selina decided to write notes on her hand to cheat during the test, a decision that went against her principles. During the exam, the professor caught her with the notes and expelled her, leaving her devastated. The next day, Selina, with red eyes from crying, found Isaac on campus and told him she had been expelled. Deeply saddened for her, Isaac comforted her and encouraged her not to give up on her studies. Together, they decided to improvise a lab in Selina's apartment, using borrowed or even stolen equipment from the university. Despite the difficulties and lack of resources, their determination did not waver. Sophia, weakened by illness, suffered such intense pain that she went out into the street seeking help. Eventually, a car stopped, but to her horror, it was Alexander driving. He took her to Mexico City against her will, ignoring her pleas for medical help. Trapped and desperate, Sophia thought of Isaac as the car drove away from her hometown. She knew she was in danger and didn't know how to escape. In Selina's apartment, Isaac and she continued their studies. Both their determination grew despite the challenges. Isaac focused on the research, hoping to find a solution for his mother's illness. Meanwhile, Sophia tried to send a message to Isaac from Alexander's car, but he confiscated the phone before she could complete the send. Sophia felt growing panic realizing Isaac wouldn't be able to find her easily. Isaac received the cryptic message from his mother and became worried. With Selina, they tried to track the phone's location using skills she had learned from her uncle, a former policeman. Urgently, they headed to Selina's car, determined to find Sophia before it was too late. With Isaac driving and Selina using her computer to track, they headed toward Mexico City. As Alexander drove with determination, he ignored Sophia's pleas. Feeling helpless, she looked out the window, knowing her chances of escape were slim. On the horizon, Mexico City loomed closer, and Sophia fought against the panic, wondering how she could alert Isaac. In their apartment, Isaac and Selina intensified their research, getting closer to their goal every day. The situation was critical, and they needed to act fast. Meanwhile, Alexander was determined to take Sophia to Mexico City, where he thought it would be easier to control the situation. Sophia watched her cell phone screen, signaling Isaac that the signal was guiding them to a specific location. Alexander and Sophia arrived at an old hotel in Mexico City. Alexander had reserved a room and explained they would stay there until they found a house. Noticing a knife in Alexander's pocket, Sophia decided not to react to avoid risking her life. Inside the room, Alexander locked the door and settled on the bed, trying to calm Sophia with an unsettling voice. She pretended to be calm while thinking about how to alert Isaac. When she tried to take Alexander's phone, he woke up furious, took the phone from her, and broke it, leaving her desperate. Meanwhile, Selina saw on the tracking screen that Sophia's signal had disappeared. Isaac, worried, decided to go to the last recorded point. Arriving at the hotel, they realized they needed to hear something to indicate Sophia's location. Then they heard Alexander yelling at Sophia, revealing they were nearby. Isaac and Selina decided to call the police, explaining that Sophia was being held against her will. Then, they pretended to be room service to access the room. When Alexander opened the door, they surprised him. Isaac took the knife from him while the police arrived and arrested Alexander. Sophia was taken to the hospital, where doctors found her in a coma. Concerned, Selina returned to her apartment and discovered a crucial component to stabilize the cure. She returned to the hospital with the vaccine, and together with Isaac, they administered it to Sophia without authorization. They spent the night in the room, waiting for results. At dawn, Sophia showed signs of improvement. Relieved, Isaac hugged her as the medical staff investigated. Isaac and Selina explained the situation to the university's dean, who, surprised by the vaccine's success, offered them support and funding to continue their research. Selina was readmitted to the university, and the two dedicated themselves to perfecting the vaccine. Sophia recovered, and the house was renovated. Isaac and Selina continued working together, advancing in their research. Meanwhile, Alexander reflected on his actions in prison. The relationship between Isaac, Selina, and Sophia strengthened, and they all looked to the future with hope and determination. If you liked the story, support us with a like and subscribe for more exciting narratives. Don't miss our next story.